Hello to all my friends out there. Hi, you guys. Well, I'm out here in California and the entire state is on fire, and I have been a bit concerned. Fortunately, it's not burning huge cities or anything yet. So about an hour ago, my phone fed me a video. Perry Stone, is economic collapse coming? Is bartering returning? Perry Stone. So let me show you this. I posted this video on my Twitter. And you may wonder why. Well, it just so happens that I have followers in the Mideast because I used to live in El Cajon and there was a huge Mideastern population. And so I wanted my followers all around the world to watch this video. I believe this video is a word of knowledge. So you might be thinking, what do you know about a word of knowledge? Well, I do actually know one thing about a word of knowledge. When I was young, I developed a drinking problem. And I couldn't stop. I really couldn't. And so I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. And what happened was it was started by Dr. Bob and Bill W. And Dr. Bob had been given a word of knowledge. And it was, you can never drink another drop of alcohol. So he knew he had this word of knowledge, but he couldn't quit. Finally, he met Bill W., a stockbroker who was in the depths of despair because he had lost all his money in the stock market. He was suicidal. They were both in a world of hurt. So they helped each other, and the crux of it was if Dr. Bob helped Bill W. and Bill W. helped Dr. Bob, by helping each other, they could quit drinking. So so it worked very well for me for many years. And I believe that Dr. Bob must never take another drink of alcohol was a word of knowledge from God. And so what's important about a word of knowledge is it saves countless other people from destruction. And this word is economic collapse coming, is bartering returning, is very, very important and could literally save people's lives. You don't have a job. What do? Well, you have to barter because you don't have any money. So before I start this video, I usually don't pray in my videos, but this time I'm going to because I think this issue of bartering is that important. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask for the tree of life. We ask that you send its roots across the world. You shall receive power when the Holy Ghost has come upon you to Judea, Samaria, and the outermost limits of the world. We ask for a taproot to President Trump and to all of the governors, especially Governor Newsom. We ask for a special equivalent blessing to Perry Stone for this video. And we ask that small roots be sent to everyone who watches this video. Also, if people watching this video need healing, we ask for a leaf from the tree of life to be given to them for healing. Also, we ask that you send your angels to assist them. Also, we ask that no one shall be lost by suicide. And we know that you're helping us in these times. We just have to have faith, which is difficult. And these things we say in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Okay, so now I want to get into it. Items for barter. Okay, how this came up with me is when I retired, I said, I'm going to start a swap meet business, and I'm going to supplement my income by buying things and selling these. But you could also barter for things you need. And so these are the things I have come up with, bartering. Cast iron skillets. If you can find them cheap, grab them, because you can use them on a camp stove or a barbecue, and if you cover them, they can be used like an oven. Camp stoves, any kind of camp gear, but a camp stove so you can cook your food. I mean, you can even put a whole can of pork and beans on your camp stove. Heaters, the kind that run without electricity. Just to let you know though, if you don't have any money, butane can be a bit expensive. Sleeping bags, heavy duty sleeping bags, are not as easy to find in thrift stores, and sometimes they are pricey. But what I do when I buy stuff, I wait for at least 50% off. Coats, especially coats for children. Shoes, all kinds of shoes. Canned food, anything you can get. I buy dented cans all the time, if you've been following me. Socks. Okay, one of the things you will notice on street people is either they have no socks or their socks are very, very dirty. If you can get 2 pair of socks, you can wash one out in the morning, and then by the next morning they should be dry to protect your feet. I want to make mention, as I know of a woman who got an infection in the crack of her heel, and by the time in Tijuana, and by the time it was done, she lost both her legs. Soap, bath soap, toothpaste. You know, you can use salt and soda. Salt, alcohol, like rubbing alcohol or drinking alcohol. You can also make your own alcohol. I posted a video by Cowboy Ken Rawlings. When you're making your sourdough starter, that liquid can be used for alcohol. So you might think, well, that's ridiculous. People shouldn't be drinking anyway. But if you really need it, you need to know how to get some legally. Flour and barley, because in the Bible it mentions wheat and barley as running short. I did find barley, but it's not like plentiful like flour. Also, possible wheat shortages in China that could affect us. Sugar and oil. Okay, my grandmother said there was a shortage of meat during the Depression, and there was a shortage of oil in World War II. Now, I'm old enough, my grandmother was born in 1906, and her grandmother was born in a covered wagon as they came across the plains from Missouri to Utah. They were Mormons. And so I have knowledge, it's going back almost 300 years of what they did and how they survived. That's why I was determined to do this channel. Okay, flour and barley, sugar and oil. In World War II, they were desperate and they even resorted to drinking motor oil. Kotex, those are nice to have. Milk. If you have babies, you're going to need milk. Beans and rice. In Venezuela, the bags of rice have hit $40 a bag, and everybody is broke. What do? Well, you have to barter a few. If you have beans, you can barter for rice. With rice, you can make rice milk, which is very important. Okay, bras. If you can get bras cheap now, get them, because you can use them for barter. Beanies, like heavy beanies to keep your head warm, and they're not easy to find out here in California. Furniture, chairs and cast iron furniture. I left mine when I moved. That I didn't want to, because if you can get cast iron furniture, it lasts forever. Clothes. I sell clothes, you guys know that. I bought this Boss Day clothes, $5, and this jewelry was really cheap at Walmart. Luxury items. It's possible that people are going to be starving for luxury items. Okay, I have a little different spin than Perry Stone, and I like his spin a lot. And he talks about how his relatives, I think it was in Tennessee, got by bartering. There was also bartering by people who traveled as traveling merchants selling snake oil and kitchen utensils in the Wild Wild West. Okay, bread starter or bread dough. You could use that as barter, because if they don't have yeast, you can use a little piece of bread dough, or if you have the starter itself, that can be bartered so that people can make bread, or you could kindly give them some. Homemade alcohol. if you know how to make that. Coffee, seeds and plants. You know, one of the followers mentioned that an avocado tree takes 10 years to grow, but I would save the seeds anyway. And fruit trees, you know, if you can get those will be good for bartering. People are going to need fruit. Children's clothes. A lot of times you can get children's clothes free at the swap meet if people leave them. And you want to gather up all those fragments that if you see something curbside that you think you can sell, that you think you can barter for, take it and find some way to set up a warehouse and keep that stuff, and you'll be very glad you did. All right, let me see if this thing's still going. I have a little problems with my phone. My phone wants me to buy a new phone, and I don't want to. Cornmeal, that is very important. I bought big bags of that when the pandemic started. Dehydrated meat. You can dehydrate your own meat in the oven at 250. Not during this heat spell, but you know, as soon as possible. You can dehydrate hamburger, beef, chicken, and a good one is shrimp. Lemons, apples and raisins, you can dehydrate those. Canned food. Dehydrators, if you can get those are good for barter. Confectioner ovens. So what's good about them is if you have one, you can use it like an oven, but you can use it on top of your stove or in your camp stove. Canning jars. In fact, there was a prophecy that we should be buying those. So I've been looking into that. I don't have too many yet, but I want to get some. Gasoline. Toilet paper. A lot of people think the toilet paper is no big deal, but it actually is, because when people start getting very broke, that's when they start picking up disease. Wipes. If you have babies and you have wipes, or you know, you can use them on yourself. Curbside junk like vacuums, lamps, and tables. So if you see these items that people are going to need, when people don't have money, they get very depleted on everything. I had an uncle who had a motels in Las Vegas, and when they wouldn't pay their bills, then they would take everything inside, you know, and you could have it back if you paid your bill, but they never did. And so then in time, my uncle had warehouses full of stuff that was just personal effects, and it became very valuable. You've seen The Pickers, you know, the show The Pickers. Well, on those shows, usually it's somebody old, and they have hung on to everything, and now some of it is valuable because they have lived during hard times, and they, you know, they have old cars, and those can be valuable. Books on gardening and survival. Those will become invaluable if you have those. My family was farmers, and my grandmother had big volumes on gardening. And they were gardening in the middle of the desert. Spices, bay leaves. Okay, if you put bay leaves in your flour and your rice, the bugs won't hatch, but it's very hard to find bay leaves. So what I would do is stockpile a lot, and they can use for barter. Cinnamon and pepper. Very bad if you don't have pepper. Makeup and nail polish. Okay, don't throw your stuff out just because it's used. People will buy that when they're desperate. 25 cents here and 25 cents there adds up. I went to the swap meet, and I told you about the time we made $66 selling 25-cent items, okay? Paper, pens, and crayons. You may wonder, why do I say that? Well, I worked in low-end shops, and, you know, hello, may I help you? Yeah, can you give so-and-so a message? No paper, no pens. I was just the most irritating thing. And also, kids with no paper and no crayons is really bad, too. Okay, phone chargers. What if the Walmart's not open? All kinds of different cords for your appliances. I bought a used fireplace, and I had to spend $20 to get the plug. Cards, games, toys. Those can be, at the swap meet I went to, a guy had a big table of little toys, you know, that he would sell for about $1. You know, depends how much they were worth. Hoodies, those are valuable. If you find them in thrift stores, cheap, in good condition, grab them. Instant potatoes. Okay, now, things are getting really, really bad, and you have instant potatoes, and you can give somebody a pound of instant potatoes. Potatoes are very bad when it starts running out, and you will notice that there is a spike in the potato price. Dog food and cat food. Okay, we have a big husky dog. What happens if Char the dog doesn't have dog food? In the wilds, they say those big dogs can eat up to 30 pounds of food in one serving. Another thing is hungry dogs are dangerous. And another thing, in these fires and floods, there's a lot of poor displaced animals. And in the fire, a lot of animals have perished. And pet supplies. Okay, I live by the Takati border. And in the Takati border, they don't have beauty licenses. They just set up a little salon in their house. And you know, they're not professionally trained, and some of them make pretty good money. So, you know, the teenage girls sometimes can do better hair than the hairstylist. Not me. No, just kidding. Okay, bath soap. That's going to be bad. I get Dial soap. I've been using it for years. And when I try anything else, I also have some charcoal soap that I use a lot. Candles. Those are very important. Some people know how to make them. I think that'd be a valuable skill. Powdered drinks like Tang. So the thing is if you have a lot, you can sell it in small portions, like, you know, gloves to protect your hands from the cold or to protect your hands from viral infection. Canned fruit. Okay, the main reason canned fruit is really good is because you can make jam. You just drain it, or you don't have to, but I drain it. I cover it with water, I add sugar, I cook it down, and I either mash it or chop it. You don't have to add sugar if you don't have any. And then I try to get fruit in its own juice, because then I have juice as well. And if you have it, lemon. And also lemon and lime juice. Right now you can buy the big ones for $1. Ham and bacon. Okay. During the Depression, my uncle was a barber, and he cut men's hair. They were all Mormons. They were all friends anyway. But he would cut the hair. He was a barber all year. And then when they slaughtered the hogs, they paid him off in hams. And there's a story that came down through the generations that my uncle came with Virginia hams. Mind you, this is during the Depression. So why is ham and bacon so important? Because you can put a little bit in your beans. So if you have hams, then you can sell off or barter with small pieces of ham. Baking soda and baking powder. Okay, as of now, you can still buy the big ones at Smart and Final. I would load up, because if you have that, you can make flat bread or soda bread. Vinegar and bleach. Okay, you want vinegar, because if you put vinegar in your drinking water, that will protect you from infection. But depending on the water, you can use 1 gallon of water with 16 drops of bleach. Bug spray. Okay, if we start getting an infestation of some kind of insects, we're going to need bug spray. Medicine. The two main ones I would say is aspirin and whiskey. Toothpaste, that's going to be bad. I think I mentioned that one. Q-tips, that's bad too. Lotion and dish soap. Okay, I'm looking for the gallons of dish soap, and so far I haven't been able to locate any. Okay, fruit trees, you know, just grow your own. Towels, that's bad if you don't have towels and washcloths, and they can't be bartered. Avocados. Okay, I put avocados because we used to have them, and my brother used to sell them for money. thongs, you know, the kind you can slip in so you don't get your feet all filthy, and you know, then back to the crack in the heel thing. Underwear, okay, that is something, if you can find it cheap, load up on it because you'll be able to barter it. Dehydrated onions, okay, you can dehydrate onions, chilies, and in your dehydrator. And if I find dehydrators, I will buy them. Canned tomatoes, corn, and green beans. I posted the award-winning Spanish or Mexican rice on my Twitter. I also posted Perry Stone's video on there. And I'll also leave it under comments, so you guys watch that. The green beans, the canned green beans, you can cook them with bacon or ham too, or even sausage. I did that the other night. It's good, and it's good leftover. 7 Dust. Okay, I had a problem. Guess what? I couldn't find 7 Dust. I could find some, but not easily. And fertilizer. You can use compost, but you know, it's kind of disgusting. Chickens. If you have chickens, you can barter the chickens themselves or the eggs. Velveeta cheese. Okay, it stores for a long time, and if something happens, you can barter that cheese a few pieces. You know, it really helps. You can make macaroni and cheese. Okay, canned drinks like Pepsi, like Coke, like 7-Up, and then if you have whiskey, no, just kidding. But they do have canned drinks at 99 cents, only 4 for $1. Cola, Shasta Cola. Basso, I think I said Basso. Nuts. Okay, there's certain nutrients that are only in nuts, and it's best to store nuts in seeds. And if you can get like 50 pounds of nuts, those are going to be invaluable for barter. Butter or margarine. If you can get cream and you can make your own butter and margarine, you're going to need fat. So I stockpile canned cream. Okay, canned meat. The ones I thought of just off the top of my head were Spam, tuna, chicken, sardines, clams, and salmon. Condensed milk. Okay, this goes back to the Vietnam War. And what the Vietnamese women, I don't know about the men, in the mornings they would drink strong coffee or tea with condensed milk and eat bread. So you can get by on that. Oatmeal. Okay, you can still get oatmeal, 10 pounds for $10. And that is good for barter as well. Best if you have milk to go with it. Okay, now I want to talk about gold and silver. All right, if you're not rich, let's see if I can find it. I might have taken it out. Okay, what you can stockpile is silver chains, and you can sell those. Also nickels, gold jewelry. I was going to tell you something about gold jewelry, and I can't remember what it was. Okay, and wine. That is something that you would be able to barter. T-shirts. What happens is your jeans and shoes could last for a long time, but your shirts and your underwear and your socks, not so much. Glasses. Okay, what brought this up was, this is like when, you know, people need things and they don't have any money. So I was going to the Adventist church, and they did an outreach to Asia, and I had like all these old glasses I had bought, you know, eyeglasses. Lo and behold, they took them to Vietnam, and they brought pictures of the ladies so happy wearing my glasses. I guess I think my funny thing is I don't wear glasses anymore, but they could see out of my glasses. So from then on, a lot of times in thrift stores, I would buy glasses for $1, and I would try them on, and if I could see out of them, then I figured those are pretty common type ailments of eye loss. Beer. Okay, I can't imagine how valuable beer and cigarettes would become, and alcohol. Ketchup. You know how bad it's going to be with no ketchup? You can make your own, just tomato sauce, salt, pepper, and sugar, but it's not as good. Bandages and Neosporin and A&D ointment. You know, and alcohol. I can't tell you how many people I have known that didn't have any alcohol, like during the pandemic. Okay, knowledge how to deliver a baby. God forbid. I took an EMT class. It cost me $1,000 after 9/11, and I'd say that was one of the best dollars I ever spent. Hope I never have to deliver a baby. Vitamins, eggs. If you have chickens, you can barter eggs. Top ramen. There is no top ramen out here. But if you have top ramen and you cook it and you have 1 egg, a tablespoon of water, and you mix it, put it in your top ramen with some cheese, and you have some hot sauce, and you have some lime juice, and you have some crackers, you're going to be praising the Lord. Popcorn. I haven't stockpiled that much popcorn, but I've been told to, so I'm going to. Pine nuts. The thing about pine nuts is you can roast pine nuts, like in oil. And something about those roasted pine nuts is very nutritious. My brother was saying he was in Europe and they were $26 a pound. Corn, dehydrated. Okay. Bouillon cubes. You know, you need bouillon cubes for that Mexican rice. Okay, now, I knew a woman, and she was a good cook, and she was working somewhere, and this guy owned a stripper club, and he enticed her to work for him because he would serve a lunch with one of her delicious sandwiches, brownies or cookies, and a soda for $5, and it was really to lure men into the stripper club. But you know, you can barter for ready-made food like cookies, brownies, cake, granola bars, bread, corn muffins, soup, tacos, sandwiches, filled sandwiches with like hamburger and cabbage. You just make bread. Yogurt, homemade, hot chocolate, lemonade. You know, imagine, right now any of us can get lemonade. Can you imagine how valuable lemonade would be? I'm not saying be selfish, I'm saying even maybe give some of this stuff away. Donuts and scones. Okay, one of the most delicious scones that could really hit the spot is tomatoes, dehydrated tomatoes, and Parmesan cheese. You can use that Parmesan cheese out of, you know, the kind you use for your spaghetti. And if you had one of those and maybe some tea, you would be very, very glad to pay a small sum or to trade something you had. Okay. So like dehydrated cheese. Right now we can still get it pretty cheap. We can even get it at the dollar stores. Cheese sandwiches. Okay, now just like barbecue chicken, hamburgers, homemade black bean burgers, wheat bread, flatbread, pancakes, biscuits, potted meat, and Vienna sausage. Could things ever come to that? Yes, they could. And maybe not so far off. Homemade jam. You don't have any fruit, you have a little jar of homemade jam. It's really going to help you out if you have some bread and butter. Evaporated milk. Mainly, I need that in case I want to make soup or gravy. If you have gravy and bread, you can survive. Small bowl of beans. Okay, Bibles. Like the Christians go, could that ever happen? Yeah, that could happen. I've heard that there's been problems finding them in large quantities, but I would suggest just buying them in thrift stores. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to support churches in your community, or say Perry Stone, people like that. Adventists, they have a food bank every Tuesday and Thursday. In La Mesa, there's a church down here. I don't know if it's Baptist. It's by the 31 Flavors in La Mesa. And they have food Tuesday and Thursday, liberal amounts too, and some Saturdays. Okay, out here, they're dispersing food at the food banks for the fire victims. So I believe these were set up because, you know, we know out here when it gets hot like this, fires are coming. The Baptists out here sent showers back to Hurricane Katrina. Catholics, they disperse food. I took my friend to one of their pantries. Mormons, they disperse food. Community centers, they disperse food. Food banks. Okay, so now I want to make a mention. Okay, you know, people now are moving and they're abandoning their stuff curbside. I've shown you the stuff I have gotten free, and you can sell that. And in the Bible, it talks about Jesus saying after he fed the multitude with the little fishes and little loaves of bread to gather up the fragments, that nothing is lost. It's like the story of the guy. He's on top of the roof and the water's rising, and a man drives by and says, "Get in the boat." And he says, "No, I'm waiting for God to save me." And so the guy in the boat leaves, and another one comes and he says, "No, I have faith God is going to save me." And the water's rising. Finally, a man comes in and says, "Get into this boat before you drown." And the guy says, "No, I have faith that God is going to save me." And he drowns, and he gets to heaven and he says, "Why didn't you save me?" to God. And God said, "Who do you think sent the boat?" So gather up that stuff, and you know, you might need it for bartering or selling. Okay, I want to mention the 10 virgins in the Bible. There's 10 virgins, 10 wise and 10 not so wise. The 10 not so wise didn't store oil, and they went to the wise virgins, this is in the Bible, and they said, "Give us some wine or oil." And the wise virgins said no. And I always thought that was so cold-hearted. But if you're in some kind of starvation situation and you know that person had plenty of time, it's like now, never in history has there been time where we can acquire food. Go to the food banks, the food pantries, the churches, welfare, and get the food. Okay, and then there's the story of Joseph. Okay, he suffered all kinds of hardship. I believe that my hardships are invaluable to my life today. He was sold into slavery. First, his brothers threw him in a hole because they were jealous. Then he was sold into slavery. Then he was falsely accused of rape. And then he was, you know, stuck in a prison for years and years and years. And finally he got out, and he was able to interpret some dreams. At that point, he was put in charge of acquiring resources, and what he did is he made the people store 20%. They had 7 years. So if you can store up 20% now, that might save your life. So, okay, now vitamin C, A, and E. Because if you don't have those vitamins in sufficient quantities, you can fall into disease. Eye disease, heart disease. I buy vitamins at Dollar Tree. Ice. Okay, I am this old. There was ice boxes when I was a kid. That was a wooden box, and there was big pieces of ice in it that were delivered like bi-weekly. I put 14 pounds of ice in my little styrofoam cooler, and it lasted 2 days. What you can do, I found this out one time I went to the food pantry. You put your ice in your cooler and you put your food on top. A lot of people have never been poor. A lot of people have never heard of bartering. Brandy. Brandy can be mixed with water. Wine. And another thing is, this is back to the fragments. Collect cans if you don't have much money. Today I was at the shopping center. I can't tell you how many cans I walked past. I don't gather them, because I'm hoping some of those men will, up there begging, will think about that. So collect cans and return for money. Also marijuana. Okay, you might go, Rhoda, that is awful. Yes, it is, but people who have a marijuana problem, you don't get over it. You need marijuana. And also marijuana seeds could be valuable. Now, candy. Okay, if any of you women out there eat gummy bears, the cheapest place to buy them is Walmart. And they're always nice and fresh. If you've ever bought any really kind of like stale gummy bears, but candy, any kind of candy, you know, people became very, very hungry for candy in the Depression. My grandmother used to make a candy. It was so delicious. I'm sorry I can't teach you guys how to make it because I've never been able to make it. All it was caramelized sugar, evaporated milk, and walnuts. And she would send them to my dad, and they were hard candies, and he would shake the box and would be so excited. And on Christmas, I used to try to make those for my dad. I go, they're not close, are they? And he goes, well, no, but he would eat them anyway. Okay, now, markdown shopping. I bought these peas for 38 cents at Walmart. They're making burgers out of peas and rice. It's a very nutritious combination. And then I'll just add on one thing. On my dad's side, they were in Switzerland, and one of the grandmothers had a dream, and she dreamed that two men were coming. And they came, and they were Mormons, and they were missionaries. And they brought word to one of the uncles, who's a very pious Christian, to come to America with them. And he did. He was a hunchback. And they cut a hole in the ice and baptized him. And when he came up out of the water froze in icicles, but he was healed of being a hunchback. So in my family, we knew of the 100% certainty that this miracle would happen, had happened. They came all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to Canada, and then to Nauvoo, Missouri. And they had dairy farms. And the militia came to tar and feather the grandfather because they were polygamous. And he had a lot of sons, and the militia outnumbered them, but they said they might tar and feather the grandfather, but you won't. So, you know, they were going to just kill him. Just for, you know, they were going to kill the grandfather too. So they decided they would leave, but they knew they were coming back. From that point on, they packed up what they could in a push cart, a lot of times, and went across the country to Utah. And the amazing part of the story is on the back of the push cart was a child who pushed, like when they went up the Rocky Mountains, the back of the push cart. The oxen died because it was such a hard journey, but none of the people perished. One thing they did is they said that they shared their food with the Indians. Now and Mormons would bring provisions to them because there's just no way to get across. So none of the people perished. And a lot of times the Indians would perish, and there was even a couple of Indians in the family because everyone would die and an Indian child would be left. So how did they do this? Well, they prayed to God for help. So that brings us to I believe there are terrible situations going on right now. So I have since changed the prayers. God, first of all, I pray for the blood of Jesus to cover us, our family, and also my followers. And I would pray the blood of Jesus for protection. That goes for starvation too. And then I pray, God, will you please send some of those angels to help us? Don't kill yourself. Pray to God and he will somehow help you. It has never failed me. Now the God, please send the angels to help us thing is kind of a new development, because one of the this is a great thing. Just like 1 hour after Perry Stone did the video, I had it here in California. In California, we got big problems. The state is on fire. But one of the ministers in India was praying because the corona is over there. And he dreamed that some angels were actually pouring some kind of vial of ointment on the believers' houses, and also administering leaves of healing to these people. So, I've told you the story about my family, the Hunchback, and so it's very easy to say I 100% believe this minister. So, okay, you guys, start stocking up a Barter. You've seen me buy pots and pans, and you might be thinking, why did you get those pots and pans? Because kitchen stuff is stuff to barter. Okay, please like, comment, and subscribe. And at night, I pray for you guys. All right, you guys, God bless you all.